painful.
We ready?
Yep. Giants cards. Next matchup. You don't even have to do that.
No, we do.
No,
We
you
do.
don't.
We do. Welcome back, y'all. This is our part 2 because we ran out of storage on our phone. We're janky like that.
We don't record on our phones.
Yeah, sorry. We're very amateur. But we're going
That's
to
what
dive
you
right
like.
into the matchups.
They like it.
We ended the last video on the Cardinals. Sorry, Sweet Feet. Sorry, LeBron. Stop shaking the table. Take your elbow off the table and quit shaking it.
No.
It's knocking everything over. We're okay, Hunter. We were on the Giants and the Cards. Both of these QBs had great weeks. This was 2 crappy teams playing crappy football, so there was a lot of fantasy output.
Yeah, Daniel Jones finished as QB1 on the week. He did it not only throwing the ball. He had 321 passing yards, but he also had 9 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. So that was good to see from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Saquon with a great week up until his ankle sprain, which is going to sideline him for a few weeks. It's sad to see. James Conner on the other side, great game. 23 carries. They had 26 carries for the running backs all game, and he got 23 of them. So
it was good to see Jalen Hyatt get involved. I think he had 2 catches. They were big catches for quite a bit of yards. Daniel Jones needs a number 1 receiver to break out there in New York, especially with Waller being banged up. I thought that was big for the Giants offense.
Yeah.
They need to get Hyatt going.
were you happy to see Waller finally put in a good game?
Why would I be?
I mean, he looked kind of crappy last week, even though they were playing.
I
the
guess.
Cowboys.
Yeah, I
Couldn't
mean,
really
no,
give him
it's
the ball.
not. I expect him to be the only, consistent weapon for New York.
Him and
Hollywood did look good out there. Like to see that. Joshua Dobbs was hitting them pretty consistently.
Yeah, it's not going to happen every week, though, with the Cards. They're just not a good football team.
Saquon. When's Kyler coming back?
Who knows?
They project them halfway through the season.
They think like halfway through the
But
season.
if they're 0-6, I don't see him coming back.
No, there's no reason.
Yeah. Our next matchup, though, is between the 49ers and the Rams. This is a good divisional matchup, a lot closer than people expected. Matthew Stafford looks like the OG Matthew Stafford. He's just throwing the piss out of the ball.
55 times.
Yeah, making Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell look like, Calvin Johnson and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, Puka has 35 targets through 2 weeks. He's being force-fed from Stafford. He's really the only weapon on that offense. I think Van Jefferson had 2 targets. Kyron Williams looked great against a really tough 49ers defense. I'm loving Kyron Williams after this week. I think he had 28 fantasy points in PPR, which is huge. Debo, he had 6 catches, but he also had 5 carries, and he ran one in. He looks good with the football in his hands.
Yeah, he does. On the Rams side, those rookies or those young guys just look great, and I'd be happy to have either Puka or Kyron Williams in my lineup. I'd be starting them for the foreseeable future.
Are y'all starting, Blake? Are you starting Puka if Cup comes back?
If and when Cup comes back, Cup will be back eventually. I think Puka with 20 targets this week. Even if Cup takes 10 of those, I mean that's still 10 targets that you're grateful for any wide receiver to have in fantasy football. And Puka seems efficient with his catches too. At least 10 yards a carry, I think, in both his first 2 games, or catch average. And I'm keeping Puka in my lineup until he proves why he shouldn't be.
I think
Cup back or not.
I think so too. Our next matchup was between the Jets and the Cowboys. Cowboys look like the best team in football, honestly. Which is sad to see.
Dak looked really good.
Dak did look good.
Jets D is good.
Yeah, the Jets defense is great, and he kind of diced them up.
Yeah, he
CeeDee
did dice them
Lamb,
up.
8 all day, man.
11 catches, 143 yards. He had more yards than the rest of the offense.
Damn,
So he had over half of Dak's passing yards.
that's crazy.
From the Jets side of things, Zach Wilson with 3 picks. Zach
He's
Wilson
the
just
worst
being
QB in football.
he's just being Zach Wilson. They need to get Brees more involved. I think he only had 4 carries. I think Dalvin had 4 carries as well. They were down most of the game, so I guess that kind of makes sense why they weren't running the ball. But, I mean, Brees is one of their best weapons, and he even said it so himself. If you have Garrett Wilson, you need to sell him.
Yeah.
Sell Garrett Wilson.
Saved by touchdowns these last 2 weeks. I would not be happy with Garrett Wilson right now.
Tony Pollard,
Looks great. I don't think he's
25
getting
carries.
25 carries a game, but they kind of had to because they were running the clock.
It's a small guy, though.
He's a bell
Better
cow.
doing that
He is
with.
a bell
He's a
cow.
bell cow in Dallas.
I know, and it's It's awesome, but it's also worrisome because he's a small guy.
Yeah.
Worried about the longevity of him doing that all season.
I am. I don't think it's going to be 25 carries a game. He's going to get those catches, though. 8 targets for your running back is awesome.
Jake Ferguson got a touchdown, correct?
Yeah, he did. And
Dude, he got like 3 targets in the end zone. Or they're
Who was
tight
it?
ends in general.
who was Al Michaels called that too? Al Michaels was like, he's getting in.
He's a
getting
good
in the end
pickup
zone.
if you need a tight end start. He's a good pickup.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the new Dalton Schultz.
Chase that Ferg.
Yeah. Our next matchup, though, is between the Commanders and the Broncos. Much like the Cardinals and the Giants, these were 2 bad teams playing head-to-head, so it ended up being good for fantasy output. Russell Wilson looked good. He also looked awful. Multiple turnovers. Those long balls definitely saved his week.
The Hail Mary and then that long ball to Mims made Russell Wilson's stats a lot better than they should have been.
He's got to quit kissing babies, man. On the running side, though, Brian Robinson was the RB1 on the week. Antonio Gibson looks almost fully phased out. Not quite there, but getting there.
Robinson had 18 carries and Gibby only had 2. So if you're a Brian Robinson owner, you're loving that.
Yeah, I think, to start the season we were worried with the coaching change about Gibby being more involved than last year, but I mean they're not showing any signs of that.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about Javonte Williams?
I'm worried.
Poorly.
I'd definitely be worried.
I think poorly of him. I think poorly of every offensive player on the Broncos. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with Blake. I'm worried about everybody.
Javonte being hurt already again, week 2. I already don't like running backs on teams that I think will be playing from behind. I don't like Javonte at all. I don't.
Yeah.
I think he
I disagree with both of them. I think Javonte, I think he's a good buy low candidate. He did have 12 carries and P. Ryan only had 1. I think Javonte could be a decent play. I don't love the Broncos offense, but if you have a lead back in an offense, Javonte's shown explosion. He's an explosive back, so I think he's a decent buy low candidate.
Maybe so.
you can buy him really low,
You
like
can
dirt
buy him
cheap
real
low.
fucking low right now. Go out and get him, Hunter. Next matchup was the Sunday night football game between the Dolphins and the Patriots. The QB play wasn't that great out of these two. This was the second highest over-under of the week. Got closer than the Chiefs did, but still didn't hit. It was a low-scoring affair. The Patriots may be 0-2, but I think the Patriots look really good. I mean, they have shit to fix on the offensive side, but that defense looks really good. Rodriguez, too, that safety that they have, he might end up Defensive Rookie of the Year.
2 weeks in a row, the Patriots have played close games. I think last week, Boutte was he couldn't get his second foot in bounds in the red zone, and then this week, they ended up losing by a score. They need to get Ramondre Stevenson more involved, in my opinion. I think he's their best offensive weapon, and they just haven't really got him involved.
Yeah, he needs 15, 20 carries a game with 5-6 targets a game, every game. I mean, if they want a better chance to win. Raheem Mostert on the other side looked really great. What did you think of his output?
Dude, he looked really good. He looked fast, explosive. I saw somewhere that it was him and A-Chain as well as Reek and Waddle. They were like the fastest 4 and
They're track stars.
Yeah, they're all track stars.
Fast ass team.
Belichick kind of phased out the wide receivers on the Dolphins side, but that's what he does. He's known for that.
Yeah, they put up 7 points in the second half. It was a little disappointing. It was like 17-3. They started slipping.
Yeah, this was Mostert's day and no one else.
You don't hate 15 points from
Yeah, you
Tyreek.
don't. I
They
mean,
need
you
to go
expect
get
way
Mike.
more though. After 40 last
They
week.
need to go get Mike Evans, Patriots.
Patriots.
They need to get
Chiefs need
Mac.
to go get Mike Evans.
Mac Jones needs a solidified number 1 receiver, I think.
Devontae Parker looks good. I mean,
He did.
first week back.
He did. He's back. 100% of snaps, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Our next matchup, though, is between the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Close divisional matchup, as most of them were this weekend. The Saints defense looks like one of the best in the league. The QB plays out of these two teams, though, was just atrocious all game. It was hard to watch. I'm not going to lie. Even as a fan, it was very hard to watch.
Yeah, the Saints need to figure out how to get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, the red zone offense is atrocious.
I was worried there wouldn't be a touchdown this game.
I was way more worried than you were.
Field goals and field goals and field goals and field
Blake
goals.
Grupe, man, he is what a kicker. What a kicker.
Panthers offense, I don't want
Awful. I don't want
anything to do with
No
them.
one.
Yeah, I don't want
Not a
anybody in
soul.
there either.
None of them.
Time will tell with Bryce Young. I'm not a believer. I just think he's too small. But, I mean, he's shown flashes. The turnovers weren't good for him, though. Or not good at all. On the other side, though, the Saints receiving core. I mean, all three of these guys are going to have good weeks from Shaheed, Mike Thomas, and, of course, Olave.
10 points plus each.
I think it kind of caps it caps them all, especially the Michael and Shaheed. But
It'll be interesting to see
it'll be
these guys going forward once Kamara comes back, because he is going to demand a lot of targets out of that backfield, and I think a lot of those targets that are going to those receivers, I think could go to Kamara.
I think it's going to be a very pass-heavy offense all year, so that's a lot of reliance on Derek Carr, and I'm not there yet mentally, though, if it's going to happen.
To give them all that trust.
Yeah, that's
And
a lot of
Jameis,
trust.
we trust.
Yeah, I mean,
Bring Jameis back!
shut up. Enough of that, dude. I believe too many times. Our next matchup, last matchup, will be between the Browns and the Steelers. Rip Nick Chubb. That was
It's
awful
sad.
to
You
see.
hate to see that.
We all love Nick Chubb. He's one of the most likable guys in the league. Me personally, I think he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame, even if he's done now.
I don't know about that, but
If you just look at the numbers, he's definitely a Hall of Fame candidate. But yeah, I mean, that was from the moment he snapped in half. Basically, it was a bad game. It was bad before that. It was weird. It was fun before that because it was just crazy plays. But after Nick Chubb went down, you could feel it in the air watching that game.
It's 2 weeks in a row. You know, week 1 was Aaron Rodgers. This week it's Nick Chubb. You know, the NFL needs to get rid of turf fields.
I agree. It's not all down to turf, though. You know,
It's not.
I hate it for football because football's always been, you know, it's a violent sport. But if they really want to prevent injuries like these, there's got to be like a different rule with the way, you know, tacklers come in. That's what's going to prevent it. You're going to get grass fields. You're going to have guys slipping in mud and tearing their shit too. People are going to get hurt on turf and grass.
It's just when that foot gets stuck. I guess on the Chubb injury, it wasn't so much
Chubb injury
that.
was Minka Fitzpatrick rolling into his knee.
It should be 2-hand touch.
Yeah, it's going to get to that one day, I'm sure.
The softer we
But-
go.
I mean, Jerome Ford looked great.
He did look great. He did look really good. Definitely a waiver ad this week. We'll get to that soon.
The waiver ad.
Did you have anything more to say about the Pittsburgh side? Pittsburgh offense, are you in on any of that right now?
Yeah, George Pickens did look good. He had 10 targets, despite Kenny Pickett being a poor quarterback. I mean, Pickens is clearly the number one receiver there.
Pickett needs to be better.
He needs to
Pickett
get a lot better.
Does need to be better. But we just saw Cleveland shut out Joe Burrow last week before he was injured.
They got a good D. That
Good.
pass rush is Myles Garrett, Zadarius.
Yeah.
Najee Harris makes me want to slit my wrist. I haven't yet because I'm gonna stick it out for another week. Jalen Warren getting way more touches than I'd like to see. It's like every play they draw up for Najee is just running into his lineman directly in front of him, and then the next play they bring in Warren and they want to throw him a screen pass with perfect block.
Warren looks better, man.
He does look better.
He does look a little better, but I think the play calling for Najee is bullshit, and that they literally just run him up the middle and give him they don't give him any.
You know, he's the
Creative
one.
plays.
He's good
He's
at.
the one running into the lineman's asshole. They're not. The coach isn't saying.
The line looks
Mike
like
Tomlin
shit.
isn't saying, Najee, I want you to go out there and run into his asshole.
Right, well, his
Najee
asshole
is
gets
the one
thrown.
doing it.
They start throwing it back on Najee, man. I mean, it collapses on him. I don't like the play calling for Najee. It sucks.
I just think Najee sucks.
It's
But
disappointing. It's just I don't think he sucks.
maybe so.
I don't think he sucks, but I don't think he's.
Last
Like
year
a
he was
6th round
hurt.
pick, not a 3rd round pick.
Last year he was hurt. This year, I don't know what his excuse is going to be.
Yeah.
But
He sucks. That'll do it for our matchups, though. That means we're gonna dive into our waivers real quick. I hinted at it, at my guy, but I'll go ahead and let you start this off.
yeah,
Our
I
waiver
had
pickups of the week.
2 waiver ads that I wanted to touch on. The first one's Jaden Reed, Packers rookie. I think he's a 2nd or 3rd round pick. He had 2 touchdowns this week. Christian Watson was still out. He looked like he was Jordan Love's, one of his favorable targets out there. I think going forward, he could develop into the guy. So he's not a bad pickup. The other guy is Matt Breida. With Saquon Barkley being a game time decision this week, if you need a start, I'm not saying go out, pick up Matt Breida and start him, but if you need a start or if you had Saquon, you could go grab Matt Breida and play him this week.
I agree. My waiver pickups, I already hinted at it. Jerome Ford, he needs to be on everybody's radar. Nick Chubb is done for the season, and Stefanski, that's
Kevin Stefanski.
Kevin Stefanski said that Jerome Ford is our guy moving forward. If I was the Chubb owner, I'd spend upwards of 80% of my fab on him. If I wasn't the Chubb owner but I needed a running back, I'd spend upwards of like 60% of fab on him. But you need to spend up on Jerome Ford. He's going to be in most lineups rest of the season, especially if he did what he did to the Steelers last night. Another one, a lot less value, honestly. This is really just a spot start for this week with Kamara coming back, but Jamal Williams went down, and the rookie Kendre Miller looks like he's going to be playing this week. He's only really got competition with a practice squad guy, Tony Jones Jr. So if you need a spot start, there's not a lot of players on your waivers. Kendre Miller might be a good pickup. The last one, though, just a good defensive spot start with the Titans defense. They're playing the Browns this week. They lost Chubb. Deshaun Watson looks bad. Titans defensive line and run defense is outstanding. So I think they might be a good start against the Browns next week.
I like Devontae Parker, his first week back, 100% of snaps. He was out there. I mean, his competition is Juju, Mike Gesicki, and Hunter Henry. I think Devontae did look good when he was catching the ball also. There were some deeper targets. I think he will be the best option in New England, and I'm sure he's on waivers. My next one's going to be Tank Dell. CJ Stroud gets to do whatever he wants in Houston. I mean, he's slinging the ball consistently all the time. 10 targets, looked good. What was it, 100 receiving yards?
Around there, I think.
80 to 100, yeah.
Looks good this week. It was the Colts' shitty secondary, but, I mean, he's probably under waiver wire. Nico Collins looks phenomenal also if he's on there still for some reason. Definitely one of those wide receivers for Houston.
I like both those pickups.
One more thing I want to add. I got one more guy. Josh Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
Go pick him up with Jamison Williams serving that 6-game suspension.
Also got hurt.
Amon-Ra, was cramping up this week, and Jared Goff looks like he likes targeting Josh Reynolds. Marvin Jones hasn't done much this year. He looks old and washed. I think Josh Reynolds could be a very good flex play for these next couple weeks.
I like that. I like that a lot. That'll do it for our waivers. Just to finish off the episode, I had a few questions for my co-hosts. I'll start with you, Blake. With the rookie tight ends this year, this is a great draft class for tight ends. A few of these guys look really good so far. After week 2, though, out of Kincaid, Laporta, and Musgrave, which guy do you think is going to finish best rest of season?
I know you know my answer. As an owner of Sam Laporta, he's going to be my favorite. Musgrave is in a Packers offense where Jordan Love is actually playing really good and kind of spreading the ball around. Christian Watson's not back yet, and I don't trust any of those guys to be a consistent number one for that team, tight end included. As far as Kincaid, Dawson Knox, we saw this last week, is still plenty involved in the Buffalo offense. They had an equal snap share, both at 80%. Kincaid is good, and I think will be good for the future. Better in dynasty formats than this year, though. When it comes down to the 3 rookies, I think Laporta is going to be the best. The best out of those 3.
I agree with you.
Got a lot of upside.
Question for you, Hunter. I know a lot of people are worried with the Philadelphia offense right now. They have looked sloppy. But people that drafted A.J. Brown high, would you be worried rest of season with Devontae Smith the way he's playing? Who do you think finishes higher in that offense?
I wouldn't be worried. I think it's similar to what's in Cincinnati with Higgins and Chase. I think it's 1A, 1B with Brown and Devontae Smith. I think A.J. Brown is a great buy candidate. I think you could go out and get him for a lot cheaper. He's a buy low. Some A.J. Brown, as high as he went in a lot of drafts, I think some owners might panic with the way Devontae Smith's playing. I do see a world where Devontae finishes higher, but I think A.J. Brown will finish higher than Devontae Smith.
I disagree, but honestly, it could go both ways. They're both ones. I do know that for a fact. Did you have a question for me?
Yeah, because you told me to make one. Last week you said, but I'm still going to ask anyways. Last week you told us to go out and if you have Fab, you'd spend a lot on Joshua Kelly. He came out and pissed me off in a league I started him in with 3.9 fantasy points, 3 yards per carry, 1 target. Also, Hayden Hurst didn't look good for the Panthers either.
You didn't have to bring up Hurst, but go on.
But I did because you told us to. You told the people.
It's a good spot start. I was wrong.
So in the future, all right. Well, you were spot star wrong about Hayden Hurst. In the future, how you feel about Joshua Kelly? They said Eckler has no timeline. Poor Ben has no idea what that even means.
It all depends on Austin Eckler. You can't replace Austin Eckler, but you can get a lot of touches if Austin Eckler's out. Now, it really depends on matchup, and obviously if Eckler comes back. But if there's no timetable and he's out, Joshua Kelly is a good piece to have. And if the matchup's good, yeah, I'd start him.
Who are you starting him over? Are you starting him over
you got to give me some names.
Are you starting him over like a wide receiver 2, running back 2? You're starting him over Ford?
Yeah, Jerome Ford's playing the Titans this week. I'd start Joshua Kelly if Eckler doesn't play over Jerome Ford.
Would you start him over like T. Higgins with the way the Bengals are playing?
Absolutely not. And anyone that even thinks about doing that is a fool.
Any game script where the Chargers could go up by a lot and feed Joshua Kelly in the second half, those are the games I want.
Yeah. And obviously bad rushing defenses. It's a good question, though. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do it for our part 2 of our week 2 podcast. If you're watching this one first, I'm sorry about that. But go watch part 1 if you haven't. If you already watched part 1 and you're finishing with part 2, we appreciate the viewership. See you guys next week.
Peace.